Congratulations,
Thank
Pauline.
you.
An amazing victory. You'll see I'm wearing my teal-coloured tie here for you, especially to join in the celebration.
Thanks.
What an amazing victory. So tell us, how do you feel this morning?
Oh, you have no idea, Rowan. It's been, when I think back over the years of my journey, 30 years ago, first elected to the House of Reps, and I've been on this journey. I've been criticised, pillared, you can't do anything. Oh, yeah, OK, she's won a couple of Senate seats, and it was breaking this barrier to win a lower house seat, and I think that's what it's all about. Everyone ridiculed me, oh, you'll never win a lower house seat. Well, we did yesterday with David Farley, and I thank the people of Barra for voting for One Nation, giving us the opportunity to represent you. But Rowan, it's not just a win for One Nation or Pauline Hanson. That's not the big picture here. What I'm looking at is the win for Australia. So we now are taking it on with the major political parties have been so arrogant for too long, disregarding, disrespecting, taking the voters out there for granted. And not only that, they've run this country into the ground. I want my country back. I want to bring back prosperity. I want to the agricultural, to the mining industry. I want to give hope for the youth coming through. I want decent education, get rid of this woke agenda. You can't say male or female. What the hell has happened to our country? That's what I want.
Rita.
And yet the attacks keep on coming, Pauline, the latest from the 9 papers. I'll just read you the headline here from a piece from Peter Harcher. Australia teeters on the brink of a populist uprising led by a long-time racist. What is your response to that?
Today's political discussion around Pauline Hanson and One Nation's historic by-election victory has quickly shifted beyond celebration and into a much larger debate about media, political labeling, and public perception in Australia. At the center of the controversy is Pauline Hanson's direct response to a Sydney Morning Herald article that accused her of fueling division and reviving racism-related criticism following One Nation's breakthrough win in Farah, a seat that had been held by the Liberals for over 77 years. Hanson did not hold back in her reaction. She dismissed the accusations outright, arguing that critics in the media are not engaging with her message, but instead resorting to what she described as predictable political attacks. Her strongest remarks came when she referred to her critics as bitter people, suggesting that their opposition is driven more by frustration and political bias than by factual concern. This type of response is not unusual in modern political communication, especially from populist figures who often position themselves in direct opposition to mainstream media institutions. By framing criticism as emotional or agenda-driven, political leaders can reinforce the idea that they are speaking for ordinary voters against an established elite. However, what makes this situation more significant is the timing. The comments come immediately after a major electoral win for One Nation, where David Farley secured a historic lower house seat in a former Liberal stronghold. This result is already being interpreted by analysts as a shift in voter sentiment, particularly among disaffected Conservative and working-class voters. Supporters of One Nation view this victory as evidence that traditional parties have lost touch with public concerns around cost of living, national identity, and government accountability. Critics, on the other hand, argue that the rise of such movements reflects growing polarization and the simplification of complex policy issues into emotionally charged narratives. Hanson's defense also highlights another key theme in modern politics: the battle over media framing. Her rejection of the SMH article reflects a broader pattern where political figures increasingly challenge the credibility of legacy media outlets, arguing that reporting is influenced by ideological bias rather than neutral analysis. At the same time, media organizations maintain that their role is to scrutinize political language and highlight concerns raised by experts, particularly when it comes to sensitive issues such as race, immigration, and national cohesion. This creates a widening gap between political messaging and media interpretation, where the same statement can be seen either as legitimate political defense or as inflammatory rhetoric, depending on perspective. What is also clear from Hanson's response is her continued strategy of consolidating support by appealing directly to her base. By emphasizing phrases like bitter people and focusing on voter loyalty, she reinforces a strong US versus them narrative that has been central to One Nation's identity for decades. But beyond the rhetoric, the broader political reality is that One Nation's recent success signals a shift in Australia's electoral landscape. The party is no longer just a protest vote in the Senate, but now holds representation in the lower house, increasing its influence in national debates. This raises important questions about where Australian politics is heading. Are voters increasingly rejecting traditional party structures in favor of more direct, emotionally driven movements? Or is this simply a temporary reaction to current economic and cultural pressures? As this debate continues, one thing remains clear. The tension between political messaging and media interpretation is not going away. And figures like Pauline Hanson will continue to sit at the center of that conflict, whether through controversy, support, or criticism. Ultimately, how the public interprets these events will depend not just on what is said, but on who they believe is telling the truth.